Good morning. We'll start in just a couple of minutes. So good morning. We are still waiting for a few people to come in. In particular, we're missing Jean-Luc. I hope he will join us shortly. Just a bit of housekeeping. So if you can use the chat, please, for questions during the presentations. We hope we finish within 40 minutes, 45 minutes. With the presentations, and then we have 50 minutes for questions, or we can also stay a little bit longer on the call if there's more discussions going on and you have further questions. But we'll pick up your questions as we go along, and or we answer them at the end if it doesn't fit right into the context of what we're talking about. Please keep yourself muted and also disable the video. I think that probably is the best. I have my video on, so you can see me while I speak. I hope that's not too disturbing. So what we have planned is a short welcome, and followed then by Jean-Luc giving context about the general NGI initiative from the European Commission's perspective. If he is not joining, I will give that perspective. It won't be as good as Jean-Luc's overview, but I'll try my best to do that too. Then I will present the NGI Pointer project, and Claire will then present a little bit more detail of how to apply for the funding. And we follow that with a question and answer session. So on the call, we have Camilla. Hi, Camilla. She is working with me at Aarhus University. Hi. She's also recording the event, so please be aware of that. We will make the recording available after the session as well, so that those who cannot join either of the two sessions from yesterday or today can also view the video, or any of you can also see the video again. We also have on the call Jean-Luc now. I'm very happy about that. Thank you, Jean-Luc, for joining us. And I'll give you the floor just in a short while to present the NGI. And we also have Claire on the call. She's from Funding Box, and will present how to apply for the funding.
Hi, everyone.
And Anita, she's also with me from Aarhus University, working on about 15 people from who are interested, hopefully, to apply in the open course and learn more about this. Yesterday we had about 25, I think, Camilla, is that right?
Yes.
I think it was 25 people. So, and maybe just one word about myself, or a couple of words about myself. My name is Mirko Presser. I'm the coordinator of the NGI Pointer project, and I work formerly for Aarhus University, an associate professor at the Department of Business Development and Technology. So welcome, everybody. And with that, I would like to also just straight away give the floor to Jean-Luc to provide some context about the NGI initiative.
Sure, thank you very much. Let me start the video. Right. Can you see me?
Yep, we can see you.
All right, good. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar, and thanks for the organization, Mirko, and the whole team. Just few words to say that this exercise, this call and this project, NGI Pointer, is part of a bigger family of projects, which is the Next Generation Internet Initiative. Well, we really want to change the internet. That's the core of this program. Why? Because we see some shift from the original purpose towards centralization, lack of security, issues with privacy, issues with openness. So this doesn't mean the internet is broken fundamentally, or maybe it means that. In all cases, we need to have fresh idea on how to repair or to reconstruct. Of course, the margin is very thin between repairing and reconstruct. And that's the essence of the NGI Pointer project, is really to identify ways to change the internet. And I hear people saying, well, what do you really want to achieve with these small projects that will be funded through open calls, you know, 50K, 100K, 150. And here is a little anecdote. If you look back in the early 90s, the internet, so TCP/IP, was not working very well. Actually, it was collapsing when there was too much traffic on LANs, for instance, or even wide area networks. And it was the work of one man, Van Jacobson, in the Lawrence Berkeley laboratory, to improve internet through TCP flow control, which later, so it was a publication done in 91, I think, and it was the beginning of TCP flow control, slow start, congestion avoidance, and the ticking of the acknowledgement. And it was included in a kernel of BSD, of course. So small can be beautiful, and of course there are big guys around that will need big money, but this is certainly not what we are looking for here, and there are other programs for them. And just continuing the parallel, Van Jacobson put the software, which is really few lines of code, in BSDs, so it was open source. And we really want the work done in this project in NGI Pointer to be open and accessible for the good of the internet and everybody. So this open source dimension is certainly very important. We give the money to a brilliant team led by Mirko, meaning that they will select, because they have the skills, they have the capacities, they have the board, the experts to select the best. This is why we work with intermediaries in NGI Pointer, but also in the whole NGI family. Maybe one last word to say that it's not per se an instrument for SME. It's not a SME instrument. So we are not funding SME across the board. There are many other programs for that. This is really for people and organization developing core internet new solution, and Mirko will explain what it means in terms of work program. So think about that. Think about also that this is part of this large family. Now we have more than 400 projects in the whole NGI, which gather something like 1,000 individuals, all moving in the same directions of implementing values that we share in Europe in the internet, in the area of privacy, for instance, protection of privacy, transparency, openness, collaboration, inclusiveness. So these are some fundamentals and principles around this project. And I wish you and hope to see some of you in the next incarnation. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mirko.
Thank you, Jean-Luc, and thank you for the nice compliments as well. I think we did a good job in the first open call, and this also helps us now define the second open call, and we'll get into this in the presentation. So I think text. So we have a small consortium managing the project, and with that the open calls. So Aarhus University, Funding Box, Linknovate, and Digital Works, they're listed down here, and you can find the project website here. The presentation will be made available, as well as, of course, the recording of it. Funding Box has a good and solid track record of managing open calls, and this helps us also in this project using their platform and experience. Linknovate is somebody who does scouting for us. They are using novel mechanisms of finding calls and helping us also with the evaluation and management of the projects. And Aarhus University, together with Digital Works, we are looking after the process as well as then the mentoring of the projects that get funding. So NGI architects changing the fabric of the internet and the web. So an internet architecture renovation. So NGI Pointer has a specific mission in this context of NGI. So like Jean-Luc presented or said earlier on, there's a number of brother and sister projects out there that target specific topics like data portability, privacy and trust, or even ledger technology. NGI Pointer specifically addresses the internet architecture, web components, tools, and methods. So we're really looking at the underlying fabric of it. So it's not the application that sits on top, although we, in the strict sense, could say that we are funding core internet applications like an email client or web components itself, for instance, or also a browser. But a little bit on just the formal figures. So we have the overall project is 7 million euros with hope you can still hear me. Camila, could you just...
You were breaking up for a second.
Okay, I'm back now, right?
Yes, yes.
Good. So 5.6 million for third parties, of which about 2.5, maybe a little bit more, is left for the second open call. So we've spent almost 3 million, maybe a little bit more than 3 million in this first open call, and the second open call is 2.5 million. This is also the final open call of NGI Pointer, unless there are some drastic changes that we're going to make. So it's the only, the final open call that we've planned for the project so far. It's very blue sky. So, you know, we're not limiting ourselves to something specific. It's the only specific thing is, like Jean-Luc said, it's the fabric that we're looking at, the architecture that we're looking at, so the protocols. And you will see later on that the majority of our projects are in this layer 2, layer 3 context. And we are not funding applications and services beyond what we could term the core internet applications, if at all, in this. It needs to make a lot of sense. They're bottom-up projects, so you can select what you want to apply for, and we're extremely agile and flexible to accommodate your needs in these projects. Generally, we run you over 4 milestones, but this is mainly associated to payment rather than specific sort of programs or anything like this. Everything is tailored towards your needs. So one open call has been completed, and the second open call launched 1st of February and closes 1st of April. So 1 month and 16 days or so. On the right-hand side, I'll get back to that a little bit later. These are ideas of topics that you can address. They're not topics that we are specifically funding one each or, you know, one specific one. They're just challenges and ideas that can motivate you to feel that you should apply for NGI pointer. I highlighted energy efficiency in this list because this is a topic that we feel we would like to get at least a couple of projects into this, but we don't weight them higher than the others, except for when they are on the same level in the evaluation, which Claire will explain later on. So if there's 2 projects that are equally evaluated, but one is addressing energy efficiency, the energy efficiency will be ranked higher. So who do we look for? Well, like Jean-Luc said, the person is immensely important in this. I'm a little bit more open to whether person works or if it's an organization that applies for it. So I think it can be an SME or a startup as well, but it is the person and the motivation of the person and the help of the organization that I think is very important. So we want to know about you, the person that applies in the context of the organization or as a natural person. So you should be a European-based researcher, a developer, hacker, internet activist, working for an SME if you want to, even a startup. We've seen that as well in the cohort that we have funded in the first round, as well as you're welcome to come from a research group at the university, even maybe a larger company, but that we haven't seen yet. So this is very open, but the person is very, very important to us. And this
maybe just one word, and sorry if my communication was not good. It's not excluding SME for sure. I was just commenting that it's not specific to SME. That's the only thing.
Thank you, Jean-Luc, and that's absolutely right. And but it also who we're looking for is reflected also in the criteria that we're evaluating. So the first thing that you need to be very careful about is the scope. So it's not an SME instrument like Jean-Luc said. It's not for startups to build a business directly. Although, you know, this can be also achieved within this scope, but it's not desirable internet architecture renovations, so architecture, web components, tools and methods, as well as protocols around this topic. So the best way is to look at the examples that I will show later to see, you know, how well you fit into this scope. The person itself, we want to have some minimum quality criteria that reflect into this project and the person. So we're looking for persons that have experience contributing to open source. So this needs to be something that it can be part of a larger project, but we need to have a solid track record of contributions to that. And it's not an open source repository, it's an active open source repository that is used by various groups and there's various contributions coming in from different groups. That would be the ideal situation. We would also like to see as another option, experience contributing to internet architecture community. So if you're active in the IETF with an RFC, for instance, or if you are working with other communities around this, if you can find evidence, that's good. If you can provide that in terms of a track record, that is also something that we would accept as this quality criteria. And the final one is a scientific publication in the field. And all of those points need to relate to the proposal that you're making. So we accept, of course, new ideas and new initiatives, but because we are looking for the impact in terms of something that's demonstratable, you need to have a degree of maturity already present. So with the amount of funding that we're providing, it's not necessarily possible to start a new initiative from scratch and get to the level where we can see an impact. So there should already be something fostering or something there, a foundation to build on. That's probably our belief, although we leave that up for you to make a decision. But demonstrable internet architecture renovation, so working code, is very, very important. The second point is open source contributions. So we want you to publish your working code under open source licenses. There's a number of them available that you can choose from, and we can also give advice or help you find an organization that can give you advice on that. And the final point that you can choose is standardization or a rollout potential that affects, the internet architecture in itself. So it doesn't need to be that you now need to go through a formal standardization process, but that you have an idea or a strategy for rolling this out at a larger scale as well at the end. So scope, immensely important. Minimum quality criteria, at least 1 out of the 3 needs to be satisfied. And on the impact, we want to see 2 out of 3 being addressed, of which the demonstrable internet architecture renovation is probably the key point. So by example, open call 1, accepted projects. We have about 8 topics that we categorized the projects into that we have funded. And you can find under this pointer.ngi.eu NGI architects URL, you can find a booklet, as we call it. So it's a PDF that you can download with all of these projects listed in a short form with some links where you can find more information about them. But the categories that we have funded are core internet applications. So this is 2 email clients and a browser that we're working with. We have a project on identity. We have 1, maybe 2 projects on virtualization. But the core of the projects that we are funding are transport and network layer projects, as well as security projects that are addressing security issues. So that's about 8 or 9 of the projects in total. We have 1 project that's specifically looking at a tool, although you can class some of the transport and network layer projects also as tools, as they do more testing and monitoring aspects than working specifically on a protocol. We also have something that we term privacy by design communication protocols. These are maybe more a suite or a set of protocols that make up what you could also call a platform, but they're using a specific protocol that could be of interest, like IPFS. And then finally, we have the set of new ideas and paradigms where we are funding, let's say, larger projects or where we have maybe difficulties finding a specific category for. But as an example, we have a project where we're supporting Scion. That's a project that's been running for 11 years. It's got 60 odd researchers globally working on this. And we are making a small contribution on verified routing in Scion. Another one is an example is Solid, where we're working with a company called Digita on a specific topic on that as well. So to give you an overview of the different ones, probably would be too long. I would just like to pick out a few of them. So I think what's very interesting is, for instance, Mirage OS, which is a Unikernels project. And this one is documenting the story of Mirage OS and the deployment of it. So it's not, developing a Unikernel project from scratch. It's already existing on a running group of people and running project. Then another example is Carusa, for instance. This is a wireless optical communication system. So it's more about open hardware than it is about now protocols and software, although that also plays into it. So this is a completely different sort of topic that we're looking at. And then maybe taking a typical transport or network project, we have 2 multipath TCP projects, working on one working more on tools to do testing and measurement, and the other one working on making working code for vendors to implement in their Linux-based routers, more options about multipath TCP. We have projects ranging from 50,000 to 200,000. So not going into details here, it's a very mixed group of very interesting projects. You can find more in this URL, as well as we started a podcast where we interview various project owners and talk to them about their ideas and the meaning for this in the wider context. So far, we've done solid and verified cyan. Cyan will be online, hopefully by the end of this month. So what do you get when you come to us and have a project accepted? Well, you get up to 200,000 euros, and Claire will explain that a little bit more. And you get up to 12 months of a bespoke mentoring program. So this means we talk to you about 4 milestones, about payments, but the rest is pretty much open. And the reason why we have 4 milestones is just to make sure that we have sort of performance-based milestones that, you know, we're not getting ourselves into trouble if there are some changes in your work that you're doing, or you are your priorities have changed, and we can always see which milestones we can reach and redefine them. That's the only reason for it. It's not to have a specific program for you. Very open and flexible. 12 months is unfortunately sort of the limit. We expect that the projects will start around September for those that get accepted in the second open call. And our project will finish in December 2022. So 1 year will get us to September, October, let's say. And that leaves us just enough time to finish the reporting and the deliveries towards the commission in the last 3 months. So we have to finish after a 12-month program with you. So coming back to the ideas. So we have this work program that you can find on the Open Call 2 information or microsite, I think Funding Box calls it, with a link here at the bottom. You can find information about each one of those topics here. And I already said the energy efficiency topic is probably one of the more interesting ones. And I leave you to explore those by yourself. Maybe just to highlight the energy efficiency one, to keep it frank. We have seen that the ICT infrastructure is using up more and more of the energy that we're producing in the world, and it's becoming a big consumption problem overall. So greening the internet and energy efficient protocols and mechanisms is something that I think is becoming more and more important, and something that we should also feed into the NGI as something that makes the internet more human-centric and also looking at the climate goals. So this is not about only making protocols more efficient or making mechanisms generally more efficient. It's also about measuring it, understanding how you are looking at energy efficiency in terms of measuring consumption patterns, or measuring how certain best practices that we have today have an impact on energy consumption. Like, for instance, running updates every day on systems rather than doing it less frequently or so. So this is, like the other topics, very open. We would like you to challenge us with your ideas, but it needs to address the internet architecture, the fabric of the internet, protocols, methods, tools. Web components are fine, but it has to be within that scope. So with this, I would like to just say thank you for listening to that part. Deadline is 1st of April, and we've used Lego, of course, because Aarhus University is from Denmark, but this is a stormtrooper, but it's of course Finn. It was one of the good ones. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Claire.
Yep.
Shall I pass
Thank you?
I think you can share your slide.
I can already, yes. Perfect.
Good.
So I'll go ahead and share my screen.
You're welcome to put your questions into the chat. We'll pick them up as we go along. And then at the end, we also have a question and answer session.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Mirko. This is Claire from Funding Box, one of the partners. and we're largely responsible for managing the open calls. And I'll now be taking you through the application process. All right, so as we've said many times already, the deadline's for the 1st of April at 5 o'clock Brussels time. And we've already shared with you the link to the landing page. And that's what you see here in the image. Most of you have probably already visited this page, I would hope. But one thing I really want to emphasize is on that very page, we also have a couple of important documents which you really need to read before starting your application. So the first one is the guide for applicants. And this document contains all the information you need to successfully apply for the call. It tells you about the eligibility criteria, so what will allow you to be assessed by the external evaluators. It tells you about the evaluation process. It tells you about our timeline for evaluating the applications. And it tells you about the scope of the open call as well, which is something that's crucial. It is critical for getting you through the evaluation process. Another document that we have is the frequently asked questions, which is a live document. We update it with commonly asked questions. So I would really recommend that you take a look there as well, in case you have any burning questions. And last but not least, we've also included a template of the sub-grant agreement, which is the contract that is signed between the successful projects and the consortium. And this document, this contract outlines the terms and conditions of funding. So we've given you the opportunity to take a look at this document in advance to see what sort of terms and conditions you'll have to comply to going forward if your project is selected. So now I'll take you through the application process, which is all online and very straightforward. So all you need to do is start an application, and you'll be taken to a page where you'll see all these different sections. The sections, again, are very straightforward. We ask you for some basic information. We also ask for some legal information, which is primarily your contact information. And then we ask for information about your project. Of course, critically, we've got the eligibility minimum quality criteria, which are the 3 areas that Mirko emphasized earlier, where you need to demonstrate experience, okay? So you really need to understand these 3 areas to see whether or not you are in scope of the call and whether or not you have the experience required for this call. Then we have 3 standard sections, which if you're familiar with Horizon 2020 won't be new to you. So there's excellence, impact and implementation. And of course, the external evaluators will be assessing the scope of your project, the state of the art, what you're proposing, what sort of impact you'll have, and how you'll be implementing the project. So your resources required, the team that you'll be involving. So that's all in those 3 sections. And then we'll ask some statistical questions, and some basic statements will be made as well. On top of that, if you'd like to add a contributor to help you fill out the application form, you can do so, as you can see from the image on the top left. And another thing I'd like to emphasize is that even after you've submitted the application, you can continue to edit it, as long as you do this before the deadline. One other thing I'd like to emphasize is that we ask for a supporting document. Now, this isn't obligatory. You do not need to provide a supporting document. You're more than welcome to. But what I'd like to emphasize here is that the supporting document is not the key application. Okay, so the clue is in the name. It's a supporting document. It's meant to support the facts. It's meant to support what you're stating in the application form. You can provide graphics or other information that's going to support your statements, but please do not treat it as the main application form. So the main information needs to be in the application form. It will be evaluated by, the supporting document will be evaluated by the external evaluators, but they will give more importance to the application form. So I hope that's clear. Now I'd like to take you through the evaluation process, which we've already touched upon in my previous slides, but you can see it more clearly here in this image. So as I mentioned, after the deadline, there'll be an eligibility check, and this is a very standard eligibility check. Again, this information is in the guide for applicants, which is the document I mentioned in the second slide. And the eligibility check usually comprises of standard eligibility criteria like, do you come from the eligible countries like member states, associated countries, and the UK? Is the proposal written in English? Have you submitted on time? And so on and so forth. Then we've got the next level of eligibility checks, which is the minimum quality criteria check. And here we check if you're in scope and if you've demonstrated experience in one of 3 of the minimum quality criteria. And following that, if you pass these 2 stages, you'll move on to the expert evaluation, which is where you'll have 2 independent evaluators evaluating your application form. Then there will be a ranking of the applications following the external evaluation. And this ranking list will be discussed at a consensus meeting. The consensus meeting is attended by the evaluation committee, which involves all 4 partners of the NGI Pointer project. And they will be able to decide the final list of successful applicants. These will need to be above threshold, meaning they would have needed to pass the threshold. And of course, we'll need to draw the line because we only have so much budget. So of course, we'd like to fund as many successful projects as possible, but there is limitations on the budget. Of course, those who have been selected for funding will be reached out to, and we will then kickstart the signature process where you'll be signing the sub-grant agreement, which is the document I mentioned earlier, the contract between the consortium and the projects. And then you'll be invited to the kickoff, the welcome event, which is the kickoff of the program, the support program. Of course, those who have not made it will also receive an email with the results of the evaluation. I'm coming towards the end of my presentation. As I mentioned, it's the application form is very straightforward. It shouldn't take you too long to complete the application form, but there's still lots of time left, about a month until the deadline. Of course, you can export your application, you can delete your application, and this is critical because we will only be funding 1 application. So make sure that you do have the correct application from your organization, and do remember to click Submit Now. You'll see the prompt for the Submit Now button once you filled out all the sections. If you don't click that button, it would be as if you haven't submitted. So do remember to click that button. So that's the end of my presentation. We do have a help desk if you do want to reach out to us. That's the first email you see on this slide. And then we also have a community, which you can access through the second link. And we also get questions there. We also publicize events and news related to NGI Pointer. So do give it a look if you want to join the community, and you'll be able to interact with other like-minded individuals in this community as well. So that's all from me. Mirko, I don't know if you want to bring up anything before I hand over to you.
No, I think that was a very good overview. Thank you.
Okay.
So I haven't seen any questions in the chat, but I think we're not too many people on the call. If you have questions, you can also unmute yourself and ask them directly. So we have time.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, Karim.
Hello. Just a quick question. Looking at the deadline for submission, are you looking for a sort of traditional consortium, or can a single institution apply?
Single institutions are fine. Single individuals are fine.
Okay.
It's up to you how you want to form this. The limit is 200,000, and yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
We've had, yesterday we had a question, maybe we can put Jean-Luc on the spot here. So there were several scenarios. So one scenario is that we have applications from a university already in the first round, and now there's somebody else from the same university who wants to apply, and he's asking if that's possible, because we said that we wouldn't accept more than one application per legal entity or organization. And strictly speaking, that would be the case, but they're from very different departments. So it would be unfair because there's no coordination across departments usually at the university. What is your feeling there, Jean-Luc?
Well, this is, we are talking about legal entities here. So we have to obey to the rules, and the rules are written in a work program. I have to check because we change it from one to another one, but I think for this call, there is a hard limit. It was the, well, I have to check.
Our hard limit is 200,000 per organization.
Are you sure? Well, yeah. Well, if there is a hard limit which is in a work program, and there is no possibility. So yes, it's one of the current limitation of the way this program is handled, is that it does not address very well large organization with multiple submission from from different. So yeah, this is the answer. I'll check it right now. What is the limit for this?
Thank you. Are there more questions? Well, if there are no questions, then I think we can close the call early. And you are always welcome to follow the official channels of asking your questions to the NGI Pointer team. You can always also contact me if you would like to.
Hello. Hello. I have a question. Thank you first of all for the nice presentation. It's about the budget. Is there any Excel file template that we can use so that we can submit as a supported document, or just fill out the specified text box about the budget required?
Yeah.
So that's it. Just filling out that specific text box.
Yes. So you can always use a supporting document if you have more complicated calculations, but we don't expect that.
Okay.
We want to have a general figure, an idea of how you will spend that in terms of allocating this to labor cost, or if you have any additional expenses, then we would like to see those listed. If you're a team of individuals, we want to see the split.
Yeah. Okay.
This kind of information, but these are lump sum payments with the justification.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Claire, correct me if I'm wrong on any of those things.
No, you're correct, because we're offering a lump sum, right? So I think for us, it would be really helpful for you to break down the cost, because we need to evaluate that what you're proposing is sensible, of course. We do need to justify why we would award you a certain amount of money, but it doesn't have to be too detailed. And yes, you don't need to upload any Excels, like Mirko mentioned.
Any more questions? I believe not. This closes the meeting early, which is very nice, and online meetings always. Then we just say thank you very much for attending, and the slides as well as the video will be available to you on the event website, as well as NGI.eu news. I think we'll need to see where that becomes available, Claire. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So far we've posted the recording, I think, on our community.
Yeah.
But we'll be looking to circulate it as well.
It will definitely be on the YouTube NGI
yes,
channel.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please use the NGI pointer channels or get in touch with me directly. I'll put my email address just in case in the chat as well. And with that, thank you. Goodbye. And thank you, Jean-Luc, for joining us as well.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.